Hello. We're back for another edition of your favorite show, man, TALKSHOP. So hi to all TALKSHOPers and to all TALKSHOPians. Anyway, we're back again on TALKSHOP where we tell it like it is and let the chips fall where they may. And as we say all the time, folks, truth crash to earth. We are dang shall rise again. And our promise that we have put out to our dear apostles of Jandam. We wish that you adjust your methods more, but until you adjust your method and start being pro-Ghanaian, then trust me, our agenda is that we shall suffocate you with the truth. Otherwise, come and join us then, let's crusade for nation building. And on that note, I'm going to ask the favorite question. What time is it? And you're going to give me my favorite answer. It's nation time. It's nation time. Folks, today there are so many things that I want to just talk about, So pardon me, I'll be ranting, but I'm going to touch on specific things. I remember way back in the day, some of you may remember, when I used to do TGIF, there was a segment that I call Things That Make You Go, it's anything that is so surprising that then I played another segment and I end up saying, hey, things that make you go, So bear with me today. Let me go back to my TGIF days and say, Charlie, things that make you go, You know what is making me go right now? I call it the mystery of the missing containers at ECG. It is a mystery. My goodness. How? Look, we were all sitting down, minding our own business when the minister, Honorable Jinapo, came to announce to us that was it over 1,000 containers have been missing. Remember?
2,491 containers. ECG itself presents as containers held at the ports. 1,328 cannot be accounted for, which means they were missing.
It says 1,000 containers are missing from the port. So it sent us all into some kind of frenzy. So what could be happening? How are these things missing? So we are all watching and observing, and then all the items, or most of the items that were reportedly stolen, we saw them. Philly. We saw them in Chinese shops and Indian shops. This is the ECG equipment that's missing.
Clearly, as you can see, these are ECG cables. They are meant to be used by ECG. But they end up in these factories and then they melt them in their smelter and produce aluminium rods. A lot of ECG cables stuck in this warehouse and they've all bolted. Indians and Chinese people.
So the argument shifted from number one, they were missing. Number two, how did they find their way into Chinese and Indian shops where they were doing things? We saw the footage. If I remember clearly, I think even A+ also said he spotted a articulated truck somewhere that was carrying ECG stuff. Now, we are still sitting out somewhere. And then we get the news. And they say, by the way, all the containers that we said were lost, actually, they were not Shadai. All the containers that we said were lost, we have found them at the port. Folks, join me. These are things that make you go, Asewini. John Jinapo, come again, please. You're my brother, you're my friend, but please come again. Because what we are hearing there, all I can say right now is, things that make you go, Where did all the containers appear from? All of a sudden. And the funny thing he said was that I think he said it was 1,003 that were lost. And how many did we find? Over 2,000. Does it make sense? We see 1,003 Naira. Okay, now the investigation has gone on. The committee, whatever, has found that after all, they were neither lost or stolen. They were just misplaced. It's very interesting because I remember when Dubik Muhammad came on, that must have been with TV3, I'm not too sure. But he said one point that the pot is so big, it is actually possible that they've just been misplaced. They are probably somewhere, but that's what he said.
Let me reiterate this. A container cannot get missing. Wait, let me finish my point. Mm-hmm. A container cannot get missing. A container can only get misplaced or lost at sea. So there are laid down processes in every port worldwide.
So you heard him. That why are we going on this tangent, George Napo? Why are we going on this tangent? Say it's been stolen. But Dubik says, oh, it's not stolen. Oh, maybe it's just been misplaced. For which I thought it was totally, how do I call it? Totally crap, because I said, so GPHA, with all your technology, with all your ports, with all the digital things that we hear you have gone, so GPHA, there is no way to monitor traffic coming in? Because this is when a very effective and dynamic GPHA during the Recombo say is lost, they've been stolen, doing those back and forth, then the port would have just said, no, they are not lost. This is where we place them, because they know. Why do they know? They keep data, unless they're not keeping data. So the port should have come in at that time and said, Charlie, nothing has been stolen. Nothing is missing. They are here. That also didn't happen. Folks, you want me to say things that make you go, That also didn't happen. And my other question, all these chop shops that were supposedly, those were things from ECG that they were working on to resell and all of that. What was that image? We all saw the images on TV, and what was that? These are things that make you go, Absolutely incredible. They've been stolen, and there are all these arguments, so they are not stolen, they say this, that, and the other, and finally Dubik Muhammad says, well, this is a very big port. I'm sure they've just been misplaced. That was his conclusion.
So I said there are containers don't get missing. Containers can get misplaced.
Okay.
Let's all assist the minister and the forensic audit for us to identify the location of these containers. Okay, and you see, we keep digressing on the issue. Containers have arrived for ECG. ECG didn't have money to clear the containers. The containers went into an unclaimed area. Yes, the containers were there. Some of them were subjects of an investigation. They were there for a long period of time. As they were there for a long period of time, some of the containers cannot be found. How many terminals are there in in GPHA? So, have we gone to every single terminal to determine whether there's MPS? Don't forget. What? So let's go through all of this. So if you go to GPHA alone, you are not also being fair to GPHA. Let me finish. So there are how many terminals? There's Atlas, there's other. Let's go through all of them. Don't say I went here and I counted and that was it. Let's go through all of them, or let's go into the system.
For which I said then, and I'm saying now, if it is true, GPHA, if it is true that you have no way of tracking your cargo, then we all are in big trouble. These are things that make me go, And Tiampa say, GPA, you are telling us that over 2,000 containers came and there was nowhere in the, computer and things where you log oncoming cargo and everything. There was nowhere. Things that make you go, So finally, there was this investigative team that went about investigating. At the end of the day, not only did they find 1,300 containers that were missing, the contents of which we all saw in the Chinese shops. You see how puzzling this is? So they're saying that after all the search, the investigative body has realized that all the containers at the Tema port. Things that make you go, Those of us in my age group, I think when we were growing up, Jesus, I think it was Jimmy Cliff or Johnny Nash Menkai, but there was a song, I just remember just a phrase from that song. He said, "There are more questions than answers." So this one, direct challenge to you, Mr. John Chapo. The Honorable Minister of Energy, Mpacho, come again. Because like I said, the song that I sang for you, there are more questions than answers. Mintia said that. It reminds me of PCA Esther. She had a song with, I say, Mintia said that. It was one of my favorite songs. I didn't know that it would be applied several decades later. Mintia said that. And I don't think anybody in Ghana can really understand what is going on.
Let's be very frank. There was a rush into the media to create a certain impression that something was done, something wrong had happened. That was it. Now we are being told that 2,600 something have been found at the same port. Let's.
And we still have to get to the bottom of it. Number one, some things that we need to answer is whichever committee sent the minister the report that 1,300 containers are missing.
A list of containers that ECG has, as containers they have at the port, to be 2,491. That was the list they gave us, 2,491. However, when we visited the port and counted the ECG containers there, we got 1,134. 2,491 is the list we were given. We got 1,134, leaving out about 1,328 containers that could not be accounted for.
Which committee sent that report? Are the committee members there? And what did you go through? What investigation led that committee to conclude that 1,300 containers are missing? That's what John told us, that the committee submitted a report.
There is a committee report that was sent to me that 1,300 of the containers, when they couldn't find them, you can say they are missing. But if something is missing, you look for it. What is wrong with looking for missing containers? What is the problem? Let's even assume it's missing. Let's take it that they were missing. Or whatever. But if they can't find them, they are missing. If they were not missing, they would have found them. If it's missing, so, but you are saying you held a press conference and said they were not missing. You were categorical, and then that is the, so let it be so. Then what is the issue? Then where is the argument? There's no argument. So which means they were not missing. They were not missing. So what is it? No, let's even assume they were not missing. What is the issue? But then the narration is totally different now. It's different now. You see the argument. The committee brought a report. They told me that they couldn't find 1,300.
Which committee did that report? And okay, fine, the committee did a report. But shockingly, apart from the report that the containers have been stolen, we saw Philly. You showed us evidence that some Chinese and Indian people are doing some komsa here, and they have these things in their shop.
Clearly, as you can see, these are ECG cables. They are meant to be used by ECG, but they end up in these factories, and then they melt them in their smelter and produce aluminium rods. A lot of ECG cables stuck in this warehouse, and they've all bolted. Indians and Chinese people.
Even they transported something. So things that make you go, what is all this?
You motive the social minister and national security for now. Every containers no factories. And then I beg one casa from the Ministry of Energy air catcher say containers are not say I fit to my port. I feel quite more than twice the number now. Almost say I free port or port one casa. What it means is saying someone here today say containers no ayira no enye sa na netie.
So on this one, I'm saying this is a direct appeal to John Jenapo. I think the people of Ghana are due one more press conference. Come and explain to us how on earth a committee told you, say, 1.3 thousand a year. Come and explain to us. Come and explain to us how strangely around that time we were spotting all these places that supposedly they purchased the thing and they were being used. How was that? And finally, Honorable Minister, how come that all of a sudden all these containers were actually at the port? On that road port, beside some Ghana Port Authority. So you don't have any way of tracking things that are coming into the port? I would think that if I import anything that is coming through the port and I come there and I say, I've come to collect whatever I ordered, you can just type in whatever number I have or whatever official document I have in your portal. You can just type it in and the computer will spit it out. Oh yeah, Mr. KSM, your car is at this lot. But GPHA, I must tell you, I'm also so surprised that you didn't know. Which means you don't have any tracking system. Or let me say this, if in fact you do have a tracking system, and if in fact you knew where they were, and in fact the committee said these things are missing, and they're all not missing, then I'm telling you, there are more questions than answers. And we demand those questions and answers. So that's my take on the found. It wasn't allegedly stolen, but it's now found containers. That's my take on it. You know what else that I'm thinking about that sort of bothers me? Is currently, at least at the time of going in transmission now, the nurses are on strike. The nurses are on strike. I remember before JM came on, I did a show. I don't remember, I've done so many. I did a show and I said, Master, please, I can guarantee Ghanaians will not give you any honeymoon. And then I myself said, anyway, I know, you've been through the mill. They've thrown you out. You get it into the mill again and fought your way back. So you know what I'm saying, that Ghanaians are not ready to give you any honeymoon. But even with that, even though I stated for certain that JM will not be giving any honeymoon, I still, today, I'm shocked that the nurses decided to choose a strike action. I'm shocked. Totally shocked. Because I find it so unnecessary. Why? Master, I think that the selfishness thing that is playing in you right now is that you save lives. You are right at the forefront of saving lives. I mean, the doctor saves lives too, but before anyone sees a doctor, they have to go through a nurse. A nurse will do the initial assessment, this is an emergency, let me stand them straight here. Whatever it is, nurses are more front line of our health department, of our health community. One more front line. And so for you to go on strike, listen, I understand some of the, frustrations that you have. Why won't I understand? I really do understand frustrations that you have. There are certain things that a nurse who is treating somebody with, if they happen to get sick, and that's a result of their treatment, the hospital they are working with doesn't even pay a penny to their rehabilitation or to their medication. That is ridiculous. That is by all sorts of imagination, cheating. Obi oye nurse man, for COVID time, and then by mistake, and they get wounded on the spot. The hospital that they are working in has no regulation. Say once a nurse gets hurt on the job, we have to take off the person. So nurses, I understand though. There are a few things that I'm talking about that you have raised for which you're on strike, and I'm saying, I do understand. But at the same time, my dear nurses, I cannot support the strike action. Not by any stretch of the imagination, because you know why? You save lives. I've said this before, I think some time ago, I think Accra, doctors also went on strike, and I came and made the same plea, said, please, nurses and doctors, you can't go on strike. I know you have your complaints, I know you have issues, but whatever the hell the complaints and the issues are, there's nothing that you can't sit down and trash. And especially with this strike action, I know if I'm saying JM has been in office for 6 months. Obviously, all the complaints that you're complaining about now, it didn't start from JM's time. It's a I'm telling you. I just want you to see how it looks like. So this recent strike that the nurses are on, in the last 6 months, what did JM come and change that has affected them so badly that you need to go on strike? It's a very good question. And I was thinking, in those 6 months, what has JM done that he demands a strike? And then I'm realizing that most of these grievances you had them for decades. You have had them for decades. I mean, throughout all the period of the last 8 years that you went through, these grievances were there. Weren't they? And so you can say things that make you go, Why is it that 6 months into the new administration, no, you have laid down your shoes? Because you have the power to save lives. So you use the power to save lives as a bargaining chip. And say, of course, it's on the government. So you government, if you don't want to put that, then you better listen to me. That is blackmail. Especially when an arm has been extended. Somebody, let's sit down, let's talk. That's all I say, Charlie. This world, if you know how to communicate, oh Lord have mercy. There's nothing you can't accomplish. Some may take slightly longer than others, but if you know how to communicate, it's magic. Again, the way we have some nurses. I keep saying nurses because I hear it was nurses and midwives, but somebody showed me this document say the midwives say they are not a part of it. So this is the document. So I'm saying this, even if the midwives, who represents the midwives, saying that this strike action has not followed the right process. But let's forget about all that. Nurses and doctors. Me, if I had the power, I would put, you know how the security services cannot go on strike? We are soldier man, who born dog, you can't go on strike. You are in the fire service, you can't go on strike. You are in the police, you can't go on strike. You are with immigration, you can't go on strike. Because these are seen as essential security services that should be operating 24/7. So you can't go on strike. Many powerful. Many power we are. But if I had, I would add nurses and doctors to that. I think nurses and doctors, your services are as demanded and as valued as policemen and soldiers. So please understand this. That when you get to the point where you jeopardize people's lives in order to get what you want, I think it's selfish. After serving everything, say, I agree with some of the conditions, all I'm saying is, let's talk. Let us talk. Let us not pretend that this thing just happened 6 months ago, because you know it didn't. Let's talk. And unfortunately for you, you have the media now. Everywhere you look around, there's some television house, some radio house, some media, some TikTok. You'll be drowned by media. Even if you, my friend is saying, mobile phone, here, we are with the Registered Nurses Association, and we have been doing this for the last 3 years. This is what has happened. We have one movie you cry, and I'm going to TikTok, and look at attention. So all I'm saying is this: so we are not in an era where you jeopardize people's lives in order to make sure that your conditionalities are met. Please. Do you know how many pregnant women are lying down? Do you know how many sick patients are in the hospital today? Do you know? Does it matter to you that you are in the front line of service saving lives? So in effect, when you say, I'm no longer going to give you my service to save lives, all you can say, they can die all they want. We don't care. Because I'm looking for my conditions. Where's Sakrana KSM? You have a legitimate, very, very, very legitimate reason for asking for certain conditions. I don't know all of them, but I know that you're all intelligent people, so you definitely have legitimate reasons for asking for what you want, you know. So I say I agree with that, you know. But where I disagree is that you get to the point where you will bargain with the life of plenty human beings. Let me say something to you now, if you're listening to me, nurses. If you decide that you won't work anymore, trust me, you think you're fighting the government. Trust me, nurses, it won't affect even one minister. Are you kidding me? That if the minister's wife is in some serious trouble, and the nurses are on strike, he won't pick up the phone and call Eurocare, he won't pick up the call and call bank hospital, he won't pick up the phone and call any private hospital. And the doctor who picks up says, bring your wife. All I'm saying is this: if you decide to go on strike, you are just killing the people who don't have access to private doctors and nurses, because that is the reason they rush to you. You are their last hope. You are their last hope. And what I think you should do, all nurses, you can have meetings after this. What I think you should do is to make a claim. You know, you guys, you are the ones that read, the Oath of Florence Nightingale. All about service to humanity. I know that in article time, we are now in a different era. You need money. You need cash. Guess what? I understand it. I guess the only problem I'm having with this whole process is that you are not giving the sit-down communication talk a chance. Even if you have and it is being stalled, please save the lives that you do all the time and make sure that we in the media, we know. We have met them, they have given us 3 months to respond or 1 month to respond or whatever, so that 3 months later, all the media can say, hey, the government failed again because they assured the necessary in it. My dear nurses, it is not right to. Doctors are not on strike now, I understand. But for both doctors and nurses in the health department, you can never, at any time in your life, declare, I won't work if they will die, let them die. After all die, we die. You know, it is wrong. And I don't have the power, but I'll include you with the security services because that's how important your role is. Right now, I think 37 days they are still operating. The nurses and the doctors are 37. They'll operate. Why will they stop? It's a military facility. So I think everybody will rush there for help. But let me end this, folks. I have always said this, that we cannot build this nation with actions like this. I may not sound realistic because Nigeria can be no, me can be new. Somewhere in my soul and somewhere in the souls of many Ghanaians is the love and the desire. So we'll build our country to the point. We can do it. We can do it. Massa, Why can't we do it? So every time I talk, I say I'm talking about nation building. I say I'm talking about nation building. And just so you know, this nation building has not started just a few months ago. When I came to Ghana and I was working on radio in 1997, well, check out the figures. 1997, I was doing TALKSHOP on radio. It's now online on TV, thanks to my producer who said I had some old recordings of TALKSHOP. Why don't we do it online? So let's do it because we want to shape the nation. So, by the way, yeah, 1997 on radio. By that time on TALKSHOP, I called it Shaping the Nation. I didn't call it Nation Time. I said Shaping the Nation. Just so you have an idea how long we have been in the battleground trying our best to make sure that we shape the nation, to make sure that we reset the mentality of our people. Because trust me, it all begins and ends with our mentality. We have a wonderful chance. Remember, I did a show, I think I called it, I don't know, I've done many shows, but I said this. I said, this election coming, I'm begging Ghanaians, watch how you vote, because we are at the tipping point. Tipping. Do you know what tipping point means? It means you are at the point where you can either tip into chaos or tip into prosperity. That's what I said. Think carefully how you choose to vote, because based on how you vote, we are in the tipping point and we're going to tip to this day or that way. And folks, I haven't made it a secret too that I am glad that we voted for change. I'm glad that we decided to give the NDC and Mahama, let's test them. They say they're going to come and reset the nation, change our thinking, let's test them, let's support them. Let me tell you, let me give you a good quotation from, I hate quoting Shakespeare, I don't like quoting them. But regarding this election, I want to make a quotation that Shakespeare said. I think this was in his play, Julius Caesar. This character that says, there comes a tide in the affairs of men, which when taken by the flood, leads to fortunes. And when missed, leads to chaos. Let me come back one more time. There comes a tide in the affairs of man, which when taken by the flood, leads on to fortunes. And when ignored, it just leads to missing your route on the journey. I'm just quoting Shakespeare here to let Ghanaians understand that that tide has risen with the elections that you all went and voted. And I didn't change the title. The results of the election simply means that you have grabbed hold of the tide and you want it to lead you to fortunes. So this is why, again, I will come in, that please, this change should not be taken for granted, though. This is not change. This change has come from the belly of Ghanaians, because we are sick and tired of what we went through. So let no one play with this change. On this note, I know the nurses, because for us, we are idealists. But I'm telling you, I appeal to you, please call off the strike and go back to the table. You can keep me informed of all your negotiations you're having. I also keep track of my money. So all our appeal to the nurses, Charlie, Ghana and you, let's do it for Mother Ghana. Do it for Mother Ghana and do it for God. Please, just go back to work and open up the renegotiation again. And to the government, Ministry of Health, and to all the stakeholders, let me also tell you something. When you have that meeting with them, listen. I know you will. I know you'll listen. And assure them how effective and how inevitable role they play in our development. So we can't let that go. Listen to them. And please, let's start again. Nurses, midwives, though midwives are here and not part of it, you are in the front line of our health. And all I'm saying is that the people that you are punishing, all the people that send droves to Adabraka Polyclinic, Labade Polyclinic, Huan Polyclinic, all those polyclinics that you work at, Kolebu, all those that we work at, the people that came for your service, that you are allowing them to die, are not the people you are targeting. They were targeted by. You think any Aban person will be seriously sick right now and they'll be looking to rush into a public hospital? So I'm saying, sir, the people that are suffering for your actions, they are not supposed to be the people you want to hurt. But you're using the people you want to hurt as your bargaining chip. And yet, tell me, I'm appealing to you. When you go to just and come up patrol. I can kneel and beg you, but the problem is getting up. Oh, and by the way, Auntie Margaret, you sent me this fantastic aid for my hand, and I want to assure all of you watching that massive improvement. Massive improvement is coming. But the doctors say they beg me I should keep it on for maybe a couple more months because the injury may produce wants to sue. Anyway, back to end this thing. So nurses, for God and country. Doctors, I'm looking forward to the day that all of you meet and then you all sign a pledge that from now on, Monko strike bio because you value human lives. Yes, Monko bio, pledge yourself. Please. And also to the government, listen to them and do your best to accommodate what you can. But I'm just really, really confident that by the end of this week or even sooner, you all will go to work, okay? My next thing I'll talk about when we come again, GPRTU. I also hear you have also promised a strike over the fuel thing. So next time, GPRTU, why? In the meantime, folks, nurses, I beg you, go back to work. Midwives, I hear you're not part of it. I salute you. And Ghana, don't be worried about these things. So there will be turbulence. There will be turbulence. But in spite of all the turbulence, we shall ride high. We shall ride high, and Ghana shall rise again.